So yes, our apologies for the webcams, but the presentations you can see, so we're going to go ahead and go through them. We're going to have 2 presentations today. Each is going to be about 15 minutes, and then we're going to have a session of questions. So you can type your questions in the slot that says questions. Don't use the chat because that won't go to everybody. And we're gonna keep track of those questions and ask our speakers at the end after they both present. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Xavier Flores. He's a physical oceanographer at the Autonomous University of Baja California in Ensenada. And he has very relevant projects that you're going to be very interested in. In particular, he's been responsible for the Gulf of Mexico radar network. And he's also participated in designing and construction of low-cost, low-autonomy drifters with RT telemetry, and the first-time real-time observatory. We're also going to have Fabio Medrano, who's a technical specialist in scientific computing for the computer science department at CICESE. He is a member of the Mexican Supercomputer Network, RedMexus, and also participates as a data warehouse manager of CIGOM. And they've both done an astounding job with the consortium. So with that, I will pass the microphone to Javier so he can present. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. And well, after this introduction, I think all I have to do is start my presentation. Well, I will show you a little bit of what we've been doing in the last 20 years. How have we become a radar specialist? What we've been doing in the Gulf of Mexico in the last 5 years. I will talk a little bit about the radars we use, and I will finish up my presentation with the protocols that we use to share data. And on that, my colleague Fabio will extend a little bit on this topic. So I'm responsible of the Mexican high frequency radar in Mexico. This is an initiative that the Autonomous University of Baja California and the CIGOM consortium is helping me to launch and supporting me on this. And for building this, right? For building this, as I was telling you, we have been using radars since the last 20 years pretty much. And we started using all different kind of brands radars. We start 20 years ago with the Corar radars. We used to have 3 or 4 systems of Corars installed here in the Baja California Peninsula. Then in 2005, pretty much we moved to Vera radars, and those are the German radars. We also have the opportunity to test the Osmar radars. Those are Chinese radars that we test in Taiwan. And since 8 to 10 years ago, we have been using the Lyra radars. Those are open source radars that everybody can actually build if they are, of course, including this working group that is led by the Professor Pierre Flamand in the University of Hawaii. They have this open source model of radar that they share with everybody who is interested on building their own radar. And we have been doing this with them since the last 10 years or so. We have also made some input on the hardware part of the radar, on the software part of the radar, and we are a part of this group that is building now LERAs in our case in Mexico in our radar laboratory. One of the advantages of these radars is that as all the components, the antennas can be built by ourselves. And this is an advantage because the antennas are the most prone to vandalism component of the radar. So we build them by ourselves by very cheap and very quick. And this is one of the main reasons that because we like to use radar. Those are examples of antennas that are about 1 meter high, that are tuned for transmitting and receiving a signal around 25 megahertz. And there is another example in the bottom left corner that is an example of a more low power, low frequency antenna. This is a 6 megahertz antenna that is about 5 meters high. With this antenna, we can go up to 300 kilometers offshore. And other reason because we like to use these open source radars is because they are a low power consumption radar. So back on 2005, when we were using another kind of radars, we have a lot of problems because we have to include very robust power sources like solar panels or diesel generators, but in large dimension. I'm talking about 15 solar panels or about a diesel generator that like the one is in the picture that is have to be craned by a truck. So now with our radars, we just need 2 panels to run it in solar, or we just need a very small 500 watts gasoline generator that can be carried by 1 person. And with that, we can install radars very quick in remote zones with no power electricity, and also by just a few persons, 2 or 3 persons are just fine for these installations. Those are some pictures of our lab and my staff assembling radars in Baja California in Mexico. And there is another picture in the top left corner doing the same in the ECOSUR, that is an institute in the Caribbean, in the southern part of Mexico. And also there is a picture of my team installing the antennas on the beach. This is a TX array made by 4 antennas that allow us to send the signal straight to the ocean without sending signal or power back to the land. That also allows us to making that beam pattern or antenna pattern allow us to transmit with very few watts, very low power. I'm talking about 6 watts of power, 5 to 6 watts of power on the transmitting antennas, allow us to 200, 300 kilometers, depending on frequency, but pretty much of that for 6 or 8 megahertz. And that is huge because with other systems, you have to broadcast 100 watts or so. And with this system, you can just broadcast 5 or 6 watts. And that's the main reason, because these radars are low power consumption. Also, that allows us to get easily the license to transmit these radio frequencies that are licensed, that are of course provided by the government. This is an example of the sites that we have mapping up to date with the radars, starting by the Todos Santos Bay, where we have about 10 years of data. Then the Terminus Lagoon in Campeche, where we have about 2 years of data between 2016 and 2018. The Gulf of Tehuantepec, that was one of the first places that we mapped with 2 radars that was operative between 2005 and 2008. Then you have the California coastal current, of course, in the Baja Peninsula. That was one of our first large observatories made of 6 radars and covering about 300 to 400 kilometers of shore. And another thing that that data is that we measure simultaneously the inside of the Todos Santos Bay, that you can see it. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but the Todos Santos Bay is in the upper part of the coverage of the California coastal current map that I'm showing. And so we measure simultaneously that with very high resolution, about 500 meters of resolution inside the bay, simultaneously with the larger resolution outside of the bay that was about 1 or 2 kilometers resolution in the spatial resolution. And then we have the Gulf of Mexico that is working with 15 radars. Right now, not all of them are working because we are in the process of refurbishing the whole network. That network was operative between 2016 and 2019. That was the main duration of the SIGOM project. And then we have more recently the Caribbean in the bottom right corner. There in the Caribbean, we have 2 sites that we just installed in November. They are working right now, but they don't have telemetry, real-time telemetry, because we have internet issues there because they are installing very remote sites without cell phone connectivity. That is what you mainly use to have our telemetry into the sites. All these sites, well, I don't even know how many sites are, but I think they are about 20 to 26, 25 sites already. All these sites are going to our main data repository and data display tool that you can find in the web page that is indicated there. It's orco.ens.wabc.mx. There you can go and browse our data. It's pretty much everything is available, at least to see for the display. You cannot download the data, but you can see the maps and navigate through different dates and different places. Yeah, and if you are interested in working with some database in particular, you can contact me, and we can of course collaborate with everybody that is interested on. Talking about funding, we have 1 year left of funding for the SIGOM project. We have an extension there that allows us to make and refurbish the network of the Gulf of Mexico. That network was originally made by 15 radars, but now I think about 6 or 8 are working, and we are working on refurbishing and bringing back the other ones. That is supposed to be working fully operationally by May or June this year. And then we have more recently funding for measuring the southern part of the Mexican Caribbean. This is about the border between Belize and Mexico up to Cozumel, and we are mapping the radars there right now with 2 radars, but we are planning in installing a tier 1, and we have 2 years of funding there left. Our data protocols are, of course, aligned with the international initiative. We used to share data with the Southern California Coastal Ocean Observing System, and also we used to have an MOU with GCOOS to transfer data. For the real-time quality control, we use the manuals made by iOS. This manual that I'm showing there include the LERA open source radar, and there is the whole explanation and a whole procedure to keep the real-time quality control of the data. So we align with all this. We are aligned. Then to finish, well, talking a little bit of our own data management system. I won't go too deep into this because it's the next talk that my colleague Fabio will give you. But I can just briefly tell you that we are using standard protocols. The structure provided by Climate and Forecast Convention. We use protocols like WMS and OpenDAP, and we use servers like TRIS and AirDAP to display the data. So all this is made of open source libraries. There is all the links and all the names that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And well, I will leave this to Fabio, but this is basically how our data display server is made up. And that's pretty much. I will give some time for question in the case you have questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Javier. I'm going to save the questions till after Fabio presents.